were the chosen one! It was said that you would destroy
the PC gaming monopoly,
not join them! Bring balance to the
PC gaming market,
not leave it in darkness!
The Epic Game Store. A lot of people were claiming that this was going to be the first real competitor to Steam, that it would bring a lot of competition to the PC gaming market, and force Steam to improve when for years Steam has grown very, very comfortable in its spot as the market leader for PC gaming sales. The prospect of a real competitor was something that many, including myself, welcomed and applauded. Well, at least that was the case at first. Competition in general typically results in the best products for the lowest prices for us, the consumer, and that is nothing but a good thing when it works that way. However, Epic Games is not competing in a way that necessarily benefits us, the consumer, in this situation. Instead of competing with Steam to provide a better set of features and a better user experience, Epic is instead resorting to timed exclusivity deals to restrict third-party content off of other platforms, which I don't think is anything anyone was asking for when it was announced that Epic would be getting into the PC gaming market. The Epic Game Store is definitely a very pro-developer platform. It offers an 88% revenue share compared to Steam's 70% revenue share, a move that Epic hoped would move developers over to their store instead of Steam, and we've seen a couple major games move over, like The Division 2, for example, which honestly is irrelevant considering that you still need Uplay to run the game anyway, and Uplay has the game cheaper than the Epic Game Store, so there's really no fucking point to buy it on the Epic Game Store. But other than that, it's really just been a bunch of kind of unknown indie titles that most people on Steam are probably not missing anyway, and they will be coming to Steam after a year, but that is what we have seen Epic do. It's lock these games into a one-year exclusivity contract to keep them off of all other platforms in an effort to get people to migrate over to their store. And of course, if you have been following the news, you know that the latest game to do this was Metro Exodus, a game that has been available for pre-order for months on Steam, but suddenly the publisher of Metro Exodus signed an exclusive distribution deal for 1 year with Epic Games, and as a result, pulled the game off Steam basically overnight with no warning whatsoever, only 2 weeks before launch, and that is after this game had been available for pre-order for months at this point. I mean, that's just really fucking scummy. But anyway, Steam actually issued a statement on this situation on the page for Metro Exodus. It reads, "Notice, sales of Metro Exodus have been discontinued on Steam due to a publisher decision to make the game exclusive to another PC store. The developer and publisher have assured us that prior sales of the game on Steam will be fulfilled on Steam, and Steam owners will be able to access the game and any future updates or DLC through Steam. We think the decision to remove the game is unfair to Steam customers, especially after a long pre-sale period. We apologize to Steam customers that were expecting it to be available for sale through the February 15th release date, but we were only recently informed of the decision and given limited time to let everyone know." So it seems like even Steam was left in the dark when it comes to this entire decision, and it happened very quickly because a few hours after this warning actually went up, the game was pulled from Steam and you were no longer able to pre-order it. So the developers of Metro Exodus also published a statement on Steam, and let's just say the response was less than happy. I think that's a good way to put it. What you're probably going to notice immediately is these awesome fuck yous to the Epic Game Store for basically paying to have this game stripped off of Steam at the last minute when this game has been available for pre-order for months on Steam, which, I mean, that's just really fucking scummy. And what this does is it destroys any goodwill or this notion that the Epic Game Store is good for competition, because in doing this whole timed exclusivity crap and keeping certain content off of other platforms, what you're doing is discouraging competition, because basically it's going to come to the point, well, I can only get this game here, so it doesn't matter what features this platform offers the other. I don't have a choice in this situation, so in turn it's not going to make Steam be competitive in any way that benefits us, the consumer, because guess what? You can't get the game there anyway, so people aren't going to make the choice like, oh, well, Epic Games has better features, a better customer experience, I think I'll start buying my games there. No, you don't have a fucking choice, and that is the problem, because then these platforms don't focus on actually improving the customer experience. Instead, they focus on locking down exclusive content to force you onto their platforms. This entire situation to me just seems like we're trading one monopoly for another, and you can make the argument, yeah, it's probably not a good thing that Steam is really the only big distributor of PC games out there, but when you compare what Steam offers to us, the consumer, in terms of value versus the Epic Game Store, there's absolutely no competition. The Epic Game Store is completely bare bones in comparison. But moving back to this post, I mean, there's some comments here that I just want to highlight real quick, and I think they really demonstrate this whole sentiment towards this decision by Epic Games and the publisher of Metro Exodus to rip this game from Steam. You just killed your own game. Congrats. Thanks for screwing the sales over and therefore screwing 4A Games over. Sure, moving the game to Epic Games at the last second could be a good decision on paper, but to the eyes of the common Steam user, this is beyond scummy. I doubt you'll get as many sales after the outrage. And what about 4A Games? They poured their heart and soul into this game, and then you basically doom their passion project. To be honest, I feel more sorry for the 4A devs than the Steam users. Thanks, Deep Silver. Have fun enjoying that bigger share from lower sales in a store nobody except Fortnite kids want to use, who don't care about Metro either. Lol, yeah, I fucking agree with that. Nobody uses the Epic Games launcher outside of Fortnite kids. There's basically nothing on that fucking store. But anyway, back to the comment. Oh, and don't forget, you also just heart instead of cuss word, I guess, I don't fucking know, off not only almost everyone who is ever interested on Metro, but even actual fans of the franchise. Guess you're too stupid to look at Activision Blizzard, EA, or Bethesda and think, maybe ruining our public relations for a bit of money is a genuine act of idiocy we shouldn't do. And I really agree with these comments, honestly. Like, I think they're all right on the mark, and it was really honestly amazing to see them all in a row, and I think this really just demonstrates that this is not a problem with the game just being on the Epic Game Store. The way that this was handled was really fucking shitty. I think if it was exclusive from the start, this would be an entirely different situation, but this last minute timed exclusivity deal is complete and utter bullshit, and in no way is the competition that the PC gaming market needs, because you take a look at the Epic Game Store, there's literally one fucking game on that entire store that I'm even interested in, and that is Metro. I mean, there's nothing else there. I'm not going to download a launcher to play one game. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind this game is going to sell nowhere near the amount it would have if they had not signed an exclusivity deal with Epic Games, but at the same time, the publisher probably received more than enough money from Epic Games in return for making it exclusive to their store for a year. But thinking about this entire situation, it reminds me of a similar event that happened with CD Projekt Red in their latest game, Thronebreaker. They actually chose to release that game exclusively on their own distribution platform, GOG, for a certain amount of time before it actually came out on Steam, and as a result, the game suffered lower than expected sales at launch, and it was later found out that people were just holding out for the Steam release instead of buying it directly from CD Projekt Red. But if a company like CD Projekt Red, who is beloved by everyone in the gaming community, well, except a bunch of little bitches who got triggered over that whole "did you just assume my gender" joke they posted on Twitter, but if even they felt the burn by not releasing the game on Steam initially, a game like Metro from a fairly unknown developer is probably going to fare even worse and will most definitely seriously deteriorate a lot of goodwill the Steam community has towards the franchise. In fact, I'm going to go as far as to say as this entire situation has made any and all goodwill towards the Epic Game Store for me personally completely go out the window, because this whole timed exclusivity route is not what we need in terms of competition in the PC gaming market. What this does is it deflects the real competition that should be taking place in the PC gaming market. Instead of these platforms focusing on things like features, the user experience, ease of use, pro-consumer practices, better online functionality, instead of focusing on things like that, instead they're just locking down content from other platforms as a way to deflect from having to actually improve their platform, because if you can only get a game one place, I mean, what other fucking choice do you have? You don't have another way to go, and they absolutely know that, so they're not going to improve their platform. They're going to instead focus on restricting more and more content from other platforms. But I do want to point out this chart that somebody sent me on Twitter that really just shows you the amount of sacrifices you're having to make from switching over from Steam to the Epic Game Store. And honestly, just take a look at this chart and you will notice basic shit like cloud saves, user profiles, wish lists, community mods, forums, game sorting, item trading, groups, and the biggest one, user fucking reviews, arguably the most appealing feature of Steam, which actually allows you to see real user reviews of games instead of paid for reviews by the shill games media. These are not just minor features features missing here. Just think about this for a second. Basically, what Epic is proposing is that you leave a superior platform to move over to a lesser platform only because they have timed exclusivity rights for a single-player game that after a year will be coming to Steam anyway. I mean, who in their right mind would actually do this? This is not the competition that the Epic Game Store should be focusing on. When the Epic Game Store was announced, I was actually a little bit optimistic that this might actually give Steam a real run for their money and actually be competitive in the PC gaming market. But instead, basically, the Epic Game Store has become worse than Steam in a lot of regards with this whole timed exclusivity route. I would rather these two platforms compete as just that. Platforms, leave the games out of it. If you want to release your own exclusive games on your platform, go for it. That's perfectly fine. But in restricting third-party content instead of genuinely improving your platform in order to compete is not any sort of competition that benefits us, the consumer, because like we've seen in this situation, you're trading one monopoly for a lesser one, and that does not benefit anyone. These two platforms should be selling the same games and let their own merits speak for themselves. The Epic Game Store, for example, because it takes a lower share of the profits from the actual developers, they could offer the games for a cheaper price, which would then drive Steam to respond because a lot of people would be incentivized to buy the games from the Epic Game Store if they could genuinely save a lot of money over the prices listed on Steam. That is something that would benefit us, the consumer, but no, instead Epic's just restricting the game to only their platform. They can charge as much as they want for it, and guess what? You are completely powerless because it's the only place you can go to play the game. Let's look at another example here. Take, for example, the Bethesda game launcher, a launcher that doesn't allow user reviews and it doesn't allow refunds. Guess what? Do you think anyone in their fucking right mind would purchase the game on the Bethesda launcher over Steam? No, because people like user reviews and they like the option to refund a buggy, broken game like Fallout 76, which Bethesda does not allow. But in making that game exclusive to their launcher, you are given no other choice, and as a result, Bethesda can get away with whatever they want because you literally have no other option if you want to play that game, and that is the route the Epic Game Store is going down. That is not competition. All it does is encourages anti-consumer practices through exclusivity. But with that said, let me ask you this. Was the Steam monopoly really ever that bad thinking back on it? What oppressions did we ever suffer under with Steam being the market leader? I mean, they've always been very pro-consumer for the most part. They have an industry-leading return policy. Their user review system allows for people to actually voice legitimate complaints about a game free from censorship by certain developers. They have regional pricing so people in other countries don't have to pay insane exchange rates. Overall, Steam is not really that bad of a place, and I mean, take a look at this image, for example. On one hand, you have 15 different places to buy the same Steam code outside of Steam itself versus Epic Games, which only allows you to buy directly from them. There's absolutely no third-party market for keys on Epic Games. Let me ask you this, which one looks like a monopoly in that situation? For example, I got Resident Evil 2 Remake for $42 from CD Keys the day it released. I saved 30% compared to the price offered on Steam. I could even go to a site like Green Man Gaming that offers discounts on certain games that haven't even released yet. Take Devil May Cry, for example, a game I'm personally very excited about. I could go there and get 10% off the game and it hasn't even released yet. But it gets even better. If I go to a site like Fanatical, I can find Devil May Cry 5 for an even cheaper 20% off. That's not something you're going to be able to do on the Epic Game Store. Instead, they have a monopoly on the market for the keys to their games, which means they alone control the price. Sounds a lot like console gaming, doesn't it? Restricting the consumer to one method of purchasing a game. So after seeing that, let me ask you this. Which platform to you looks more friendly to competition than the other? Which one resembles more of a monopoly than the other? For me, the choice is evidently clear. I think this entire situation surrounding the Epic Game Store is basically trading one lesser evil for a greater evil at this point. I don't ever remember hearing Valve in recent years paying to keep a game off EA Origin, for example, and locking developers into a one-year exclusivity agreement 2 weeks before the game is about to release while pulling it from other stores that pre-orders had been open on for months already. It's an entirely different situation when you want to exclusively distribute your own game through your own launcher than to pay for timed exclusivity on third-party content. All it does is pisses off the people who want to support the game, and it really just deteriorates any goodwill people have towards your platform. I mean, I hated this when Microsoft and Sony pulled this whole timed exclusivity on DLC and even games in the past. It only benefits them and punishes us, the consumer. This type of behavior by Epic Games should not be encouraged, and it's why I refuse to buy anything from the Epic Game Store until they cut it out with this whole timed exclusivity crap. That is not something I want to encourage. Epic Games and Steam need to compete on a purely platform level in terms of features and overall user experience, not by restricting third-party content from other platforms. That type of competition, as in timed exclusivity, is not beneficial to anyone in the PC gaming market except for these platforms who just basically want to overtake one monopoly with their own, and that is the situation we are looking at with the Epic Games Store right now. These platforms should be competing as platforms to give us a better experience, sell the same games, win us over with other ways, maybe put out your own exclusive content. That's perfectly fine, but don't restrict third-party content from other platforms, and sure as hell don't buy the fucking exclusivity rights 2 weeks before the game is about to come out, and pre-orders have been open on other platforms for months. That to me is complete and utter bullshit. But with that said, let me know your thoughts on this in the comments section below. Are you a fan of the Epic Games Store? Do you like what they're doing? Are you going to make the switch over from Steam? Very interested to hear your thoughts on this entire thing. I'm personally going to stick with Steam. I prefer it. It has a better feature set. It has more pro-consumer features to it. The user reviews for me are a big thing. I like to be able to actually read reviews from people who have put real, verifiable amounts of time into the game so that I can get a feel for maybe if I would enjoy the game or not, or if it's of a certain quality standard. But anyway, guys, I want to thank you all so much for watching, as always, and I will catch you guys next time.